So over the last week, it has been one hell of a whirlwind at MDF, Maryland Deathfest 2022. And you know what? Unfortunately, it was a last-minute decision, or in this case, some ways, fortunately, it was a last-minute decision. Because, you know, it was like, oh, word around the street is, it's the last one, it's the last one. And I'm like, oh, man, I can't get a 4-day pass, but I'll settle with something. Most of the Rams Head Day stages were sold out. Most of the Soundstage stages were sold out, too. So I'm like, all right, cowabunga it is. Me and my girlfriend decided we're going to go to the Edison lot for 3 days. If we could get anything else out of that, out of sheer luck, bonus. So I went. We conquered. We had a time, a few rough patches, you know, especially with all the craziness going on in Baltimore. You had the freaking shooting going on, guy who fell to his death. It was fucking crazy. But you know what? Shit happens. And this time, we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of my top 10 favorite bands at MDF. I'll do an honorable mentions, of course. Why not? Sounds great. Good. Let's go for it. But I just want to say that I didn't get to see everyone. So this is coming from the perspective of 3 days of Edison with maybe a tinge of Rams Head because I got in very luckily for some. I didn't get to see even every band at Edison lot. So take what I say with a grain of salt. And if you don't like it, well, fuck. I don't know what to tell you. Tough shit, I guess. I don't know. This is my top 10 bands. Honorable mentions first. We're going to start off with Violence and Corner. Now, if I hadn't seen these bands a week before previously in the hometown world of Chicago, I would maybe rank these guys a little higher in the mix of all things. But I had seen them, and those were headlining sets. So, of course, they're going to be better than the slightly shorter sets. But both were fucking awesome. It was cool to see Violence play to a gigantically large crowd sandwiched in between Obituary and Carcass. That is how the cookie crumbles. And Corner, middle of the afternoon on Saturday, was freaking great. Of course, there was a few less songs than when I saw at Reggie's, but still freaking awesome nonetheless. So now let's get into the top 10 bands here. All right, guys, are you ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and...
As I suspected, 32 flavors.
Number 10, Suffocation. Yes, I know. Frank Mullen isn't on the front anymore, and that's a legitimate criticism. I get it, I know. But Ricky Myers, he's no slouch either, guys. Making the jump from the drums and discords, and now being the frontman of these New York Crushers. And yes, the set was very basic, very standard, very greatest hits, what you would expect out of Suffocation. But you know what? The heaviness was undeniable. It was unfathomable. It was so much fun. A lot of good old head chops there to pay tribute to the great Frank Mullen. It was great. And I know beatdowns have taken a bit of a bad rep due to like the subgenres beating it to death, but these dudes absolutely fucking crushed. And then you got number 9. Number nine. Demolition Hammer. And you're probably like, wait, Nick, what? You're a huge Demo Hammer fan. How could they be so low? Well, guys, there is a reason for that. And no disrespect to all the boys from NY as well. Isn't it funny? 2 New York bands, 2 numbers. Well, guys, Demolition Hammer actually started off a bit rough. And I don't think it was the boys' fault, really. There was a lot of guitar issues going on, and it showed. It was, you know, cleared up around 3rd, 4th song. It was a bit rough. Unlike the Reggie show where I saw many moons back, where it was perfect 10 out of 10. Straight up perfect 10 out of 10 greatness. Now, yes, in a normal world, they would be ranking much higher. And I do think they got cut down a few songs. And if they didn't, it felt super short. They still weren't bad, though. But by the time they got to 44 caliber Brain Surgery, it was off and on to the races. Like, it was on like Donkey Kong after that. So it was still overall a fairly good set. But this is the type of band that I'm going to look forward to more when I see them at home with a good, solid, long set. I still love Epidemic of Violence. They're still one of my favorite bands. Still one of my favorite albums of all time. So nothing changes there, guys. You know, shit happens. And I know those guys, once again, it wasn't their fault. You know, shit happens. But anyways, number 8, Demolic. Demolic. I'm having blonde moments already. I'm only at number 8. What more shit am I going to fuck up then? I don't know. But you know what? This set was dominated by their soul full-length album, Nesbith, as they like to say, and a few other demo songs. And these finished lads ripped through the gates of slumber for many still arriving on Sunday afternoon, even if they were like the 4th or 5th band playing. And Anthony Bowman is a hell of a frontman. I'm seriously, that guy, like, man, hilarious. Like, if there was like a comedy tour of like, no, metal guys, it should be like Frank Mullen, Enty Bowman as the opening act. These two dudes, especially Enty, this guy's hilarious. I love listening to him speak. I don't know if there are people who should have been play. I don't think there many were, but if there were, shut up, dude. They kicked ass though, seriously. Like, it was freaking gnarly to hear those vocals live and hear it like in a live setting. Like, that shit is real, guys. I'm just telling you right now. Demlick didn't fuck around. It was damn good. And then number 7's Hypocrisy. You know what? This is an interesting one because I didn't think I'd be ranking them this high. Like, I like them. They're a good band. You know, they got great songs, but I just didn't think I'd be ranking this high. But, you know, Cowabunga, man, like, it's a bit of a standard, once again, standard set. You know, you can't really expect many deep cuts out of these guys. But, you know, it's all good because they sounded great. And some may be a bit put off by the stationary aspect that they mostly were on stage. But I didn't care because that sound was really damn good. And it was really fun to hear. And I know Melodeath isn't for everyone. And I like it in doses, particularly like At the Gates, early In Flames, if we're talking like the Jester Race. But they sounded great. Hypocrisy was awesome. And you know what? This one gets a chef's kiss. And then number 6, Cardiac Arrest. Yeah. They're from Chicago, so I must have them on my top 10. No, fuck right off. They were that good. They were that good. If I didn't feel that way, I just wouldn't have listed them to begin with. It's really that simple, guys. Now, this is the type of beautifully rotting filth for the autopsy-loving, zombie movie fanatic, devouring fan. Guys, it's fast, it's heavy, it has Chris Reeford-isms, and there's even a slight, like, punkish tinge in there too. 35 minutes was not enough for these guys. Go buy The Death That Prevailed. Go buy A Parallel Dimension of Despair, Vortex of Violence. Buy them all if you can. Seriously, Cardiac Arrest sounded great, and I cannot wait to see them as direct support for Autopsy this October in Chicago. And then number 5, Obituary. And yes, once again, very basic set. Like, maybe even a bit too basic. Like, what you would expect is exactly what you would expect on an Obituary set list, but the way they sounded was just so damn good. And I never really looked into it either, but I think they played a click track live. Like, I think they do. Either they do, or their live game is just naturally tighter than an emo dude's pussy. I don't know which one is, but regardless, they were fucking heavy, and it was so groovy, man. It didn't even matter what they were playing at that point. I fucking loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I love it. And then you had Carcass. They were crystal fucking clear. Like, if Putrid Pile is exactly that, then Carcass was the pristine collection of heavy metal, death metal classics. Sorry, I said heavy metal. I don't know why I'm saying this shit and fucking this shit. But the grinders and the crusty, they're gonna bash their keyboards about how there's only one symphony song. And I don't give a fuck, because their set had people moving. It had people moving. And their latter-day material, it translates in a live setting with the big crowds. And it shows. When you're watching, you would know. So hate all that later-day material all you want, but that shit works in a setting. And when you see those songs and watch all the YouTube videos, the proof is in the Belgian chocolate fucking pudding, guys. Number 3, Autopsy. Yeah, I mentioned them a few numbers ago because Cardiac Arrest is opening for them this October in Chicago at Reggie's. Autopsy. This is my 3rd time seeing these guys, and something about every single time of these 3 times, something just feels like perfect, which is a really odd statement to be saying because, like, it's kind of ironic if you think about how they are like the utter perfection of like grossness and nastiness, and it was just perfect. And they even got their new bass player, Greg Wilkinson, who went from, you know, a studio producer to now being on the bass. And that dude rocks some great sideburns, and he has mad stage game as well. And there's just that sound is just like, Autopsy is so exciting live. It's like, imagine if you're Randy Marsh in South Park and you're going up to California Way to get some internet because he had some withdrawals down there, and you just need to let out the serious load, and it just makes the biggest mess ever. That was the enjoyment of seeing Autopsy live. Go catch them in October in Chicago, and if they're not near you, fly out there. Go catch them in Oregon or something. They're playing there next month. They're death metal legends, guys. Seriously. Autopsy ruled. And then number 2. Number 2. Get it? Number 2. This one I did not expect. The likeliness of the number 2 band being someone I haven't listening to a whole lot is like, you know, me not ranking Pizza above all else, but every now and then an exception comes around. And Dark Fortress did exactly that. You know, many of them compared were like Opeth and Tribulation, but personally I see this more as like a black metal like version of maybe those bands, but I have more in common seeing and hearing with like Venom and of course Triptychon, Tom G. Warrior. Like, come on, you guys can't see the parallels and comparisons and contrasts. It shows, it's there. But it was cool because the songs were all atmospheric and grim, and then they were like super sci-fi spacey weirdness and somber melodies in between. And even with all the band members playing on stage, you can hear all of their instruments perfectly and evenly. No one was like playing over loud over the other. It was very unusually balanced for this band that is at face value black metal, but you know, if you look beyond the surface, there's a bit more going on here, and it's really damn cool. And I'm glad I watched this band and was lucky and fortunate enough to catch them at Ram's Head, because it was killer. And you know what? They have a new fan in me, and whew, what a fucking feat. Guys, this is the number 1. Number 1. The moment you've been preparing for. You know it, you want it, and if you know me, you probably even saw it coming. So this should be even any big of a shock to you. This should be even very predictable. And some people are going to disagree with me, and I don't care. You like what you like, but I don't care, because I stand by my opinion. I am confident, and that's why I am posting a video here on the YouTube world, so you can be like, oh man, he should choose number 1. I don't care. Guess what? Number 1. Number 1. What is it? What is it? What do I stand by the most?
That's my opinion!
That band that was not Sepultura, but more Sepultura than the actual Sepultura, they were going by Cavalera? Yeah, I know. Big shot, but you know what? I love Beneath the Remains. You know, Morbid Visions and Schizophrenia are great albums too, and Arise is nearly an essential album, but Beneath the Remains is one of my all-time favorite albums. Yes, as much as the Slayers of early days and Demolition Hammers and Your Dark Angels, Sepultura Beneath the Remains is freaking, it's like a baby for me. It's like I will love and tender it and be caring to it all day long. And it's one of those albums that I've held in high regard for years on end. And I never thought I'd see the day where Max would ever actually play more than just the title track or a Mass Hypnosis ever again. I can't believe him reteamed with Igor. And then I think he had Daniel Gonzalez from Possessed as well. It freaking worked. And they did almost all of Beneath the Remains, I think, besides Hungry, and it was absolutely insane. And they did a good chunk of Arise as well, and the minute that intro for Beneath the Remains hit, that crowd went off. The bodies were flying. It was absolutely insane. My brain was processing a lot. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing was real. I couldn't fathom it. It's just like, this is actually happening. Like, I'm actually hearing this album, and like, Max actually sounded good with the vocals. I was really kind of terrified I could even do it. And some people are going to probably say he could sound better. And, you know, maybe there's a good argument to be had there, but I actually thought he got the job done. But Igor is a freaking powerhouse. It is freaky how much faster these songs are live than on the albums. You had to have been there. It's definitely one of those moments where I'm going to look back on, 10 years, 20 years down the road when I'm a fucking mad boomer. I'll be like, oh, that was really good. That was really good. No, seriously, guys. Cavalera or Non Sepultura or Sepultura was absolutely awesome. They killed it. The solo sounded great. It was just absolutely insane. The fact that they did, like, even with Beneath the Remains, like, minus Hungry, they did almost all the other songs, like, in order of the album. I couldn't believe it. It was something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I'm like, this set was incredible. I have not headbanged and screamed lyrics like that in years, like half a decade or more. And not just because of without Corona and all the lockdown and pausing shows, but even prior to that, like, I enjoy the show, watch and feel the music, but this was on another level, guys. And I hope to those who are at MDF, they felt the same way. If they didn't, well, fuck. Tough shit, I guess. This one gave a 10 out of 10 performance for me, and that's my number one. And the top performance from Maryland Deathfest. Was it the last one? I don't know, but if not, it was a good run, and that was a great number one highlight to have. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you didn't, well, fuck, too bad. You already gone this far watching, so the joke's on you. And until then, I will see you all in the next video or the next stream until our paths cross again.